Happy Sunday. This is just me co-working right now, so I don't have anything planned. I'm just vibing. Let's chat if you're jumping in here. What's going on? I'm actually doing some work, but figured y'all could just join me along the way. You know what I mean? I have nothing structured in terms of this conversation. It's just music vibes, me working away. I know probably a ton of people are at brunch, probably at the beach, enjoying the summer, whatever. If you have a question, jump on in. If you don't, I don't know. But yeah, so I'm actually working on some updates and some handy dandy guides. Hold on, is this loud? It's like I can't hear my thoughts as I'm speaking, but let me know. I'm actually working on some updates and some things for my clients as it stands right now. And I don't know, something came over me to just say, like, go get what you want. Literally go get what it is that you want. So the vibe for me right now and moving forward, so it's less than 60 days away from my birthday. And of course, you start to think about your birthday, you start to think about what things you want to change, what things you want to update, etc. Nothing has really changed aside from just being more of myself in every aspect of my life. And so that's just a matter of being more disciplined. That's a matter of being more structured, more diligent about getting things done and not perfect. And so I want to impart that upon y'all, that as you go over into this next week, this next chapter, we're wrapping up summer already. We're already halfway through August. I feel like it just flew. Like, summer what? Summer walker. But yeah, I'm just vibing out and doing some proofreading, doing some updating, working with my team on things for the majors. And I don't know. I have a waterproof notepad over in my shower. And a lot of my best ideas come from there. And I have a waterproof speaker in there as well too. So I'll listen to, I don't know if you've seen any of my other lives around brainwashing. I'll be serious. Like, I'll be dead serious. And I listen to YouTube videos while I'm taking a shower, or if I have a thought, I'll write it down over on the waterproof notepad. I'll actually drop a link to that. Maybe I'll make an Amazon store. I don't know. But one of the things that kind of just came up was just like, how am I embodying the person that is able to handle the amount of wealth, the amount of prosperity, the amount of love, the amount of success, the amount of abundance? How do I embody that person currently, right? What are the ways that I can do more of that, or be more of that versus do, right? And that's something that I recognize that especially in the content, you'll notice that I get straight to it. Like, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that needs to be adjusted, needs to be structured. But sometimes it's not enough to just say, do this. You have to be the person that gets it done too, right? So even when we're thinking about, like, getting a new job, right? Obviously, this is a career page. But if you're thinking about getting a new job, or you want to make a career pivot, you want to go after a promotion, yes, you may have done all the work leading up to that. Yes, you may have all the credentials and all the receipts of all the projects and the works that you've done, but something is missing in terms of being able to hit that next level, and it's the embodiment of the person. It's not just the work that you've been doing, right? So that's why they talk a lot about executive presence. Executive presence, there's a word that they used to basically, like, break down what is like comprised of that. Like, when you think of an executive, when you think of a leader, they have a level of presence. Thank you, Duke. They have a level of presence that they're able to show up confidently, clearly, even if they don't know the answers, right? They know how to use their words. They know how to not say too much or too little. Think about the person that is going to be successful in the next chapter, right? I'll remove job, I'll remove work. Think about the person that is going to be successful in this next chapter that you envision for yourself, right? Are you that person? And if you can confidently say yes, then like you should have results, right? And if you can't confidently say yes, or if you're like, I need some work, that's okay too. Be honest with yourself about where you're at. I think I'll speak to myself. I'm not going to be like, everybody does this, because I just feel like sometimes that's a little bit too preachy for me. But I recognize something within myself is, okay, I want to, yes, I'm that person, period. I recognize that I can make some adjustments to being able to handle the impossible dreams that I have in my head, like the vision board, not just reaching realistically, but I'm saying like, I look at work and I look at careers as a component of driving your personal endeavors, right? I don't look at it as solely just, okay, this is who I am, my job, my identity. It's like, no, this powers a bigger vision for my life, right? This powers the fact that at some point I want to move across the country, right? This powers the fact that I want a beautiful view. I want all these things. So the person that has to do that, I have to work very strategically, and I have to be the person that can navigate the amount of uncertainty that comes with the change, right? So as I recognize, like even this year, right? I have popped over. I really like this song. Y'all like Dwelling? I Think I Love You. That's my song. But I think about this year and even this summer, I'm a completely different person from January. Like completely different person. And a lot of that came from, maybe I'm afraid to swap out a live, because once I do that, it's going to mess up this live. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm a completely different person from the top of the year, and a lot of it came from like the things that stretch me, everything falling apart, things not landing, contracts not closing, me doubting my ability. It just starts to create like a little bit of a funnel, like a flywheel of like, oh my gosh, can I actually really do this? And instead of me, I'm like, okay, who is the type of person that would be able to manage these feelings? Like, okay, they have a strong emotional regulation system. They're not going to let their nervous system just like get the best of them. They know that consistent action outweighs my feelings around this. They recognize that they're going to do things faithfully, even if they don't see the tangible result just yet. They also know that there are such things as leading indicators and lagging indicators. So there are things that you'll need to do before you see the result, right? And that's okay. They understand that spending money on programs, courses, coaches, those things will speed up the process because of the fact that you're now at a place of just operating from emotion, from a place of emotions that's not filled with anxiety. It's not filled with overthinking and all these number of things. Like the constant messaging that I've been putting into myself, even that I did not see the result immediately, I now feel the results, right? Like I feel and I see the results of me being in Los Angeles right now, and maybe another announcement later on, but me seeing my clients make pivots into different spaces and going up against roles that would quadruple their income. I'm looking at people step outside of themselves. I just recognize like a lot of this life stuff is not necessarily complicated. It's a level of difficulty that comes when we have to step outside of ourselves. I have had to remove myself, like, girl, move out the way so you can let your blessings come in, right? Because I'm so married to, well, I need to control these pieces. There is such a thing of creating an infrastructure for all the abundance to come into your space and allowing and trusting that everything's going to land properly. And the type of person that understands that is who I am right now. It was not that same person at the top of the year, though. So I said all that to say to just be as encouraging as possible to you. Whatever it is, like, you're probably following me because you rock with me because you think I'm funny, right? You think I'm cool. But me, like, but I also say that if whatever it is that you are working on or that you're going after, that you're achieving, I tend to like, in the past, let me use my words properly. In the past, I have done my best to stay away from like fluffy, inspirational content because I just feel like there's enough of that over on the streets. There's enough of that. I don't think I need to take that up. But I also recognize there's power in me actually sharing my story as well too. when I have these when the lives that come, when I do these lives and there's a message that comes over to your DMs like, hey, what about, and the people that respond, I actually take that and I'm like, all right, this is a live. So somebody actually shared, hey, I want to hear a little bit more about your story, a little bit more about who you are and your experiences, especially managing transition, the mindset, the perspective, etc. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'll share a little bit more of myself if that's going to help you recognize that if I can do it, you could do it too, right? So I'll give you, I actually was talking during office hours with one of my clients about this, and just gave her the background of how I even came to the point of learning how to master the backdoor job hunt, right? So if you've seen on some of my posts, I thought I was going to be a dentist, not my ministry, even though, even though your girl could have did it, but it just wasn't my ministry. But it actually would not, hey, I'm trying to say hi to everybody. It would not have come to this point of me being able to share how I've been able to pivot out of public health and to hear had I not gotten kicked out of college, had I not had job offers rescinded, had I not had terrible, poor working environments where I was being taken advantage of, basically running an entire company for $10 an hour at a certain point. It would not have come to pass if I would not have been able, this was mad loud, and I lost the remote. It would not, like, I would not have been able to do all these things had I not went through those experiences. I wouldn't be able to tell y'all about corporate politics and the reason why we don't get promoted had I not been promoted over or not went through a course to actually learn those things. Let me know if this is too loud because I'm nervous to hit pause on this, and let me try it. Are we good? Can y'all hear me? Yes? No? Thumbs up? Maybe not? Because y'all be saying happy Sunday. Y'all be saying look at your neighbor, say neighbor. Y'all be saying good morning, good afternoon. Okay, great. Okay, cool. Yeah, I would not have been able to kind of get to this point had I not went through some of these like really ridiculous experiences, right? Had I not, like let's say, for example, I'm thinking about how I would not have been able to pivot into one of these industries had I not lied on my resume. I would tell y'all the truth, child. I would tell y'all the truth. Tell them the truth. That's what they said over in Black Panther. Tell me the truth. That's what Chadwick Boseman said. But yeah, like, and I remember I had made a TikTok about the fact that I had lied in an interview about being really good at Excel. And they were like, yeah, so what's your experience with Excel? Because at that point I was desperate to leave whatever company, right? I was desperate. I was willing to die. Listen, if you said you needed a Michelin star chef, I would have been like, yeah, baby, I'm over here. I got that drip too. So what's up? Like, I got all the sauces. I was willing to say anything because I was that desperate. But at the time, had worked through a temp agency, and I went to I quit my job with nothing lined up because I was just, the way that we talk about mental health, especially over in the professional development space or the career space right now, was not what it was within the last 10 years. Okay? It wasn't what it was within the last 10 years. It wasn't. But I knew something was wrong, and I knew I needed to leave because it was just me running a full-on company and crying at lunchtime, crying when I'm like, I gotta go pick up a coffee and I gotta call all these vendors and I gotta do all these things. Like, it's just not it. And then this was also during the year that I was off from school, right? So I'm literally trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out all the things. But anyway, actually, this is after. I just couldn't get a job. So it was when I had started interviewing, and I went after a role, and they were like, hey, so how good are you at Excel? And I was like, yeah, girl, I'm a 9 out of 10. I'm a 9 out of 10. I was talking cash shit. Okay. And they were like, okay, great, whatever. And then it wasn't until that they hired me and they put me on the job, right? And then they had the woman that I was going to take over her role because she was actually going to acting school, but she was just doing this job just to do it. And then she was like, hey, so we need to do pivot tables. We need to do, VLOOKUPs. I said, who's a VLOOKUP? Who's that? I never heard that girl. I never met that girl before. And me having to learn on the fly, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, we did not have as many resources around Excel at that time, and I got exposed, right? I got exposed pretty quickly because there's only but so many mistakes and only but so many questions that you can ask once you don't have that guidance or that support anymore. So finally, child, like fast forward into maybe like a month into me working, and I'm trying to pull together these pivot tables, these VLOOKUPs. Like, I was the weakest link on the team. I was the weakest link. Some people don't like to talk about that, but I was. What's V looking up for? That's what I'm saying. I was like, who is she? We need to ask Jeeves, because I don't know who she's looking up. I don't know who VLOOKUP is. Never heard of her. But it wasn't until maybe a month or 2 months in that they realized that I really did not know how to use Excel, because they were asking for requests and it was quick, and there wasn't enough. We didn't have YouTube that was over here giving us the resources. We didn't have the TikTok. We didn't have a lot of these things, right, to figure it out on the fly. And then over time, they started cutting my hours, because this was an hourly rate. So they started cutting my hours. I was working 5 days out of the week, and then they cut me down to 3, because they were just like, well, there isn't that much work for you to do, and that was code for, I don't trust you with the work that we hired you to do, so we're just going to cut your hours back to just give you a couple of certain things. And I'm like, girl, I need to eat. I need to survive, right? And at that time, even though I took the role, I was really trying to get into media, into digital marketing. I was actively interviewing. I think I had interviewed over at another company, another media company around, prior to me taking on to this role. They offered me, I had this whole situation that was happening still at school. They found the information and they rescinded the offer. So then I went back over to that toxic job, quit that job. Then I'm over at this job lying about Excel, because I just need to eat and survive. Okay? Like, let's just call it a spade. And so I was pretty, like, mentally just dizzy. I know my parents were trying to figure out, like, what is this girl doing? I couldn't figure it out even for myself. But I did know this. I knew that I was good at events. I knew that I was good at production. I knew I was good at planning. I knew I was smart. I knew I was capable. I just needed somebody to give me a shot, right? And so during that job, I wasn't great at Excel. I was over on their forecasting division. I was not that strong in their finance team, but I was doing it. I started to pick up and get the skills and start to network internally. And then I did find out that they were working on some level of a fundraiser internally, and they needed to raise money for people to go over to Hawaii for this, marathon that they had going on. And so I planned the entire fundraiser from start to finish. And so that's when they realized, oh, this girl's not dumb. She's just in the wrong position. She's not stupid. She's just in the wrong role, because I knocked it out of the park, right? When it came to working with vendors, when it came to clients, when it came to getting people to buy into concepts, so it's like, I say all that so fast forward, did the fundraiser. They wanted me to stay. They wanted me to stay and work on other projects, because they were just like, oh wait, like, you're really good, you just in the wrong role. At that time, your girl had already had an offer at the company same company that rescinded my offer, right? But I approached it a little bit differently. I'll probably do a different live on that. But I ended up getting an offer while I was simultaneously recognizing that they were killing my hours. I was working on something else that I wasn't hired for, but that experience, both good and bad, helped create some leverage for me to interview and actually get the offer that would be the first time I would double up on the total comp and salary. So anyway, I say all that to say, I know that there are a number of folks that, are struggling with either feeling like they are underperforming or underaccomplished at work. They don't know what it is that they're trying to do. They have an idea what they're trying to do. They just can't get there. They're just doubting themselves, right? And here's the one thing I say that works for me is that when I gave myself I made a full body decision on where I was about to go next, it all landed. I know that some people call that surrendering. Some people just call that allowing it. Or every interview during that time, I was like, I had the energy that like, y'all need me. And it would really, like, beyond just the actual role, y'all really need me. Like, your team is wild boring. Like, it was just like, the personality was on 1,000. Come on, guys. Like, y'all need a little bit more than somebody that can do this role. You need someone that's, your needs are going to be put in front of clients. You're going to need, like, every interview that I took on, even, and I didn't have perfect experience. Let me add that in there. I did not have perfect experience. Every role that I took on, every interview that I took on, I was over here. They call it main character energy now, but that's really where I was at with it. And I didn't know that that's what it was, but I literally made a decision, and the decision that I made internally with myself is like, I'm going to get to where I need to get to with or without you. It's just a matter of if you want to help support me, if you want to plug me in. And that's how I realized, like, it's not necessarily just the words that you say to another person that's going to convince them, the energy, the vibe, the actual presence that you have and how you communicate to that person. That's why they say communication is 90% delivery, 10% actual, like, you know, the actual message, right? And there is something to be said about that. There's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about if you are like, well, I feel like I said this already. I said this over to my manager and they're not promoting me, or I said this over to this person and they're not listening to me. It's not even just the words. It's something else that they're picking up on, and that's what's holding you back. I think about all the interviews that I've went on. I feel like I'm rambling and I'm going in circles, but y'all still here, so we're going to keep going here. But I think about a lot of the interviews that I bombed. Especially an interview with Google. Ooh, child, that interview was the ghetto for me. They did a really great job. They did what they needed to do, but me, when I said them girls like to tussle, before I knew that they was tussling and I wasn't prepared, but I'll give you this. So actually at the time, so fast forward, this is when I was actually working on making a pivot into digital tech before break into tech was a conversation piece or a hashtag, or a movement rather, because I had mentors, or I had a strategic network. I had people that were basically telling me around the time before I got there, like, yo, you need to get digital, you need to be in mobile, you need to be in digital. The future is that, right? I'm talking to people that were at companies that I was looking at, and they were like, yeah, you could double your income if you want to, so you just need to tighten up. And I'm like, okay, cool. So at a certain point, a Google recruiter reached out to me, right? Now, in theory, the way that work is right now and who you're speaking to right now, a company reaching out to me to work with me at that caliber, a FANG, or even a smart up, or, you know, that's not surprising to me anymore now, because I recognize who I am. I recognize the value that I bring. I recognize what my work does. I recognize my gift, right? I did not recognize any of those things. So when a Google recruiter reached out to me, I thought it was a scammer. Like, when I tell you the imposter syndrome was, she had hands. She had hands. She did. The imposter syndrome was real. It was to the point where I hit up one of my homies that worked at Google, and I was like, is this a real recruiter? And I gave the name, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? They're reaching out. I reached out to 2 people that I knew at Google, and they both said yes, because I was so surprised that someone would see me as valuable to join their team. And that's where I messed up. That's where the interview bombed from the beginning. Once I went into that interviewing feeling like I didn't deserve to be there, that's the energy that was picked up on from interview round to round to round to round. And like, I'm using the interviews as an example, but I'm sure that there are other elements or other facets of my life where I can take that same notion of me being like, who, me? And it just trickles into the rest of the interaction, to the point where whatever God or whatever the universe is trying to throw over into my direction and bless me up, I can't hold it, because I don't even feel like I deserve it. And I've seen it happen time and time and time again. I've seen it happen time and time and time again. And so with the Google interview, mind you, I was interviewed for multiple companies, and for similar roles. I'm on the phone with the Google interview recruiter. They're asking questions, and I'm hitting them. But I'm surprised that I'm nailing them. I said, girl, like when I answered the question, they were like, wow, that's a really good answer. I looked at me in the mirror like, girl, that was a good answer. Wow, good for you. Go off, right? Like, why am I moving like this? It was too much. I really was self-sabotaging before I even got to the point where I could give you the result of like, look, I told you I didn't deserve it. Like, look. Went through the first interview round, the second interview round. They had a fire drill, so the entire building, I don't know what happened. The entire building literally had to shut down. So I'm over here sneaking out over from work to go over to this interview during lunchtime, and then coming back, and then that didn't happen. So then I ended up going back for like a round of interviews the first time around. First interview round, bodied it. The person gave me tea on what the other person's looking for. Focus on this, focus on that. I think it would be super successful in the role. And I'm like, okay, but I'm still in the back of my head, like, I don't even know why you're here. How you're an imposter, right? Versus like looking at it as just practice. The second interview round, girl. Okay, so this is the role. So I was interviewing for an account strategist role, right? An account strategist role is essentially just like it would be considered customer success in some way, where you're working through strategy, but you have a quota, but it's not hard sales, like you're looking at for new accounts. And this is over on their search engine optimization team, where they're like when Google AdWords, where you type in a word where people are buying keywords, it was on that team, right? Great. Second interview round rolls around. The woman she asked me, like, tell me about yourself. I'm giving her the tea. I'm giving her all the things, all the good looks. I'm thinking I'm killing it. She asked the second question. She goes, okay, so she asked a situational question. Here it goes. She goes, okay, so let's say you have to set up a campaign for a funeral home for Google AdWords. What would you do? Walk me through your process. I didn't make it, y'all. I didn't make it. I didn't do good. I was babbling, rambling, carrying a two. I'm over here. And I'm also doing all the things, like all the tactics on those like 10 things you should do during interviews. They were like, ask clarifying questions. I'm asking clarifying questions that's not giving me any clarity, but I'm trying to buy time. Because I'm like, she really is trying to trip me up. I don't even know how would I set this up. I don't know the product well enough. So I'm over here literally having a full-on panic attack in front of this interview, girl. It was abity. So I would, and it's to the point where I'm rambling, and all this woman is just sitting there just like this, nodding her head. And then it wasn't until I had to catch myself in the moment, and I'm like, baby, it's okay. And I paused, and I was just like, may I start over, please? She's like, yeah. I said, okay, cool. And I gave whatever was left in my spirit in that moment. But then she knew that question tore my ass up. And then she was just like, okay, cool. Do you have any questions for me? I was like, thank God, don't ask me no more questions. And so then at that point, I asked her some questions. She answered it. But here's what I did do. And this is what I said. I had another interview round, bodied that. They asked me what I would, they asked me another interview question, like, if I were given $1 billion, what type of product would I have created? And so I basically said that I would create, what did I say I would create? I said that I would create a Nielsen. Right, like I think that was a company that I was interviewing at that time. But I basically said that I would create like one of the companies in, not competitive, but competitive in that space, because they were going over into TV, and I knew that they were going into that space. And so I basically said that I would create like I would acquire and create a third party tracking company. Since I knew that they were going into Google TV, I thought that was an excellent answer, if you ask me. Like, it's giving Bianca Bezos to me. But okay. But I will say, after that interview, I bombed it. I didn't get the job, obviously. But what I did do is I called up their tech support, their Google AdWords support, and I asked them the interview question that they gave to me, because that was going to be my thank you note. So I found the number over on Google somewhere, and I was just like, hi. So I just had an interview with your team about, not your team, but I had an interview over at Google, and they asked me how I would set up a campaign for a funeral home. Y'all, tell me why the people that work at Google on their tech support staff didn't have an answer. They didn't know. They were like, wow, that's a crazy question. I said, how are y'all telling me it's a crazy question when y'all asked me? Like, so y'all don't know? So now we're over here workshopping, strategizing, like literally on the phone, strategizing, trying to figure out like how they would set up a campaign. And I'm basically pulling together, I'm giving y'all tables. I got Excel spreadsheets. I'm writing it down. I got a whiteboard. And I'm like, okay, so step one, you would do this. And they were like, yeah, we would probably put this lever on here. We would probably put this lever on there, blah, blah, blah. Or this feature, or swipe this off, whatever. So anyway, that ended up being my thank you note to the woman that I bombed the interview with. It was just like, yeah, so I know that I may not have clearly answered the second question that you asked, and I thought it was just such a strong question that I decided to reach out to someone over at Google to see what would be their approach, because I was actually curious as to what would be the best way. And she replied back to that thank you, and she was just like, honestly, I'm so impressed at the fact that even though you did not feel confident about you didn't feel confident about the answer that you provided, that you went out of your way to find it out anyway. She's like, you're going to make it far. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, okay, am I going to make it far enough to get an offer? No. But they hired somebody else. Anyway, goddamn hoes. So that ended up being that. But I said all that to say, that's my Sunday vibes. Those are my Sunday, me sharing more stories. I'll do more of these stories and just share some of my experiences over time as well, too. I'll share stories about like what happens if you are nervous about clearing a background check from just like a mistake that you had. Like, we all live in, we all had lives, child. So I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about what to do if I'll talk more about my experience with managing whether or not I should play the corporate politics of being disrespected as a Black woman, and like pure evidence of me being disrespected, of someone saying the N-word, or you're out over at coworker happy hours and that person gets a little bit too drunk and they act wildly inappropriate. What to do, like not what to do, but what I chose to do. Because as much as we want to pretend like, you know, I know that people are going after company culture. They want to go after safe environments. They want to make sure that they're happy and fulfilled, etc. You really just never know. You really just never know. I have personally just like advised most of my clients to just detach this idea of being completely fulfilled in their career at this one job, when the reality of it, if we already kind of agree that the way that you develop your career is not necessarily a step-by-step, just going straight up, you know, a straight line, be okay with learning different skill sets from different people and not being pressed about the fact that this is not your dream job or your forever job or the place that you're going to, you know, retire at, because gone are the days of that. Y'all have waved and y'all don't really say much. Okay, let me scroll. I'll be over here talking about y'all because I don't see no comments and it's just be me talking to myself. Let's see. Hey, Coach Corp. Couldn't answer it. Right? Could not answer it. I thought that was really hypocritical. Like, why are you all answering me questions for people that don't know how to set it up? That's still to this day. It's almost 10 years removed. No, it's not 10 years removed. It's like 7. It's like 8. Still to this day, it doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that. Like that didn't sit well with me. Listening. Okay. Yeah, so those are my Sunday vibes. I'm working on some things. Working on the playbook. I'll be back over on the East Coast in a couple of weeks. And yeah, man, the being piece. Yeah, it's my phone about to die. Listen, I don't care. My phone's always gonna die. My phone's always gonna die, and I'm always gonna be a couple minutes late. That's the person I've chosen to be today. Respect me. Yeah, like I didn't really have anything structured or set up for this. I just wanted to share a thought around, like, think about the person that you need to embody to be the person to get the thing that you want. I went through this workshop called Momentum. Momentum Education. I'm pretty sure at least like one person here is probably familiar. And they do a really good job of instilling the principle of be, do, have, and not have, do, be. Meaning, when I get the job, I can be this person. I can be this successful director of whatever. When I have this money, I'll be able to be happy and fulfilled and all these things. When I get the money, I'll be. So instead of waiting to experience your happiness or waiting to experience the life that you want, practice the emotion, practice embodying the person that already has it. That principle in itself has fundamentally changed my life. It's real. It's actually made me a lot stronger in terms of managing my emotions, especially when it comes to asking for what it is that you want or what it is that you need, especially if you're the person that's like struggles with asking for help. Be, do, have is the type of energy you really need to be on instead of waiting for a moment to happen so you can finally be happy. So I know that's probably very challenging for people that are like in miserable work situations where they're like, okay, like that sounds good, but like my manager be getting on my nerves, or like it's super toxic, or I'm doing everyone's job, right? So and because of that, I can't be happy. Well, what would make you happy, right? What type of person will be happier? The person that doesn't take on everyone's work. The type of person that doesn't sit in environments that make them feel like they not shit. Like the type of person that does what, right? So when you reverse engineer the process, you'll actually start to step into the powerful person that you imagine yourself to be, irrespective of your circumstances, because we actually are a lot stronger than our circumstances. I think we're just used to it. We're used to complaining into our group chats about our manager that's terrible. We're used to complaining about the fact that we don't, have any company direction. We internalize the fact that there are no jobs. There's, it's super, the market, people are getting their job. We're used to being afraid. We're used to being comfortable with not taking the actions that we know that we'll need to do that's going to set us up for success. We're used to this stuff, right? If we start to just get used to being uncomfortable, we'll actually be a lot bigger than our circumstances. So no matter what the uncertainty is, you'll be okay. You'll actually be okay. Every situation. Now, and we actually have a lot more receipts and we have more data on us surviving and thriving through really challenging moments than not. Like, think about it. Like, there's some stuff that's just like, I don't understand, like, how that happened. That almost broke me. But if you're able to say that and you're on this live and you're talking and you listen it in, you have a receipt of you making it through that. So you are bigger than your circumstances. That's what I'm saying. Like, you are here. That is the truth. So, anywho, I saw that to say, I'm going to go back to work. I'm actually going to make lunch, watch P-Valley, the season finale, because I am the mayor of Chucalissa, okay? And I guess I'm going to tap in with y'all tomorrow. One day I'm going to have like a real big like Sarah T.D. Jakes moment where I'm like throwing y'all fire. It's like I need like a big, mega church. I'm going to get that one day. Right now, I'm just sitting from my phone and from my desk in my bedroom right now. But when I get that, it's on for y'all. It's over for y'all. Anyway, thanks for joining me post brunch. I know it's hot and it's summer, and y'all just decided to tap in with me, so I assume something was of value here. You let me know what stories you'd like to hear from me. What information you'd like to hear from me. There are going to be more announcements happening as we have more people pivoting out of the majors. The majors will be opening their doors for early enrollment. And this will be the last cohort of the majors that we do for this year. So if you have been thinking about a pivot, thinking about a career coach, thinking about joining some level of accountability, if you're struggling to have that level of accountability for yourself to make whatever professional goal or life goal happen, and you just need somebody on your body and on your back a little bit, tap in with me. There's more information that's going to come up over the course of the next couple of weeks going into September. Also, just want to remind y'all that there's technically only, well, we're in August, September, October, November, December. There's only 2 months left of the year. It's only 2 months. And I want to say it just, because think about it. Why are these all on the floor? Yeah, there's only 2 months left in the year. So if you're thinking about goals that you have for 2023, just understand that those goals should be starting in 2 months. We're halfway through August. We have September and October. November, if you think about it, that is when the holidays start to kick up. That third or fourth week, Thursday, that's Thanksgiving. After that, everyone's about to start traveling and go offline. And you're not going to get one email back from anyone because, hey, I will see you in 2023. I will see you in 2023 is starting in 2 months. These meetings, let's pick this back up at the top of the year, is starting in 2 months. So this be, do, have concept that we were talking about, move with some urgency, be urgent, be responsible with what it is that you need to get done because, listen, I have fallen victim to the, okay, I'll get around to it, it's not that important, and letting my ADHD get the best of me, and now I start procrastinating, and then it becomes a bigger issue than it needs to be. Listen, if you are looking to make a shift or a change over into your next professional chapter in 2023, start to think about that today or tomorrow. But tomorrow gonna be 2023. So whatever you want to do, it's on you. Holla front, holla back, and happy Sunday. Bye, y'all.